She walked in like nothing happened. Her coat was still buttoned. Her lipstick still perfect. Hair curled like she'd just stepped off a magazine cover instead of from a late client dinner. But I wasn't on the couch watching TV like usual. I wasn't in the kitchen cleaning up the plate of food I always save for her, even when she ghosted me for hours. No, I was standing in the middle of the living room, silent, surrounded by boxes she hadn't noticed yet. She paused, blinked once, then gave me that tired smile. Hey, sorry it went late. The client talked forever. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her coat. She never buttoned it all the way up unless it was cold. And it wasn't cold. Not tonight. But someone probably helped her put it on. Probably buttoned it for her. Probably smirked while doing it. She hung it up carefully. Too carefully, like she was stalling. And I just watched her. Every step she took echoed in that half-empty room. I'd already cleared out 2 closets, most of the drawers, and my side of the bed. She hadn't even noticed. Or maybe she had, and just didn't care. Dinner was at the Harbor Lounge, she offered. You know, the seafood place near the pier? I nodded once. The Harbor Lounge. I'd suggested that spot on our last anniversary. She said it was too corporate. But now she's suddenly into oysters and waterfront views? She started talking again, nervously, her voice jumping from topic to topic. The appetizer, her boss's hilarious story, something about a dessert tray. All white noise to me. Because I already knew the truth. Not just because of her perfume, which wasn't hers. Or the credit card charge I saw from her synced account earlier. Or the subtle lipstick mark on her wine glass in the sink that had 2 prints on it. But because I was done pretending. For the last 2 weeks, I'd been packing in secret. Every night she was out late, I was folding clothes into bags she wouldn't miss, wrapping up my keepsakes in old sweaters, slowly deleting myself from the apartment we built together. I cleared out the guest room first, then the storage closet, then my home office, the one she never walked into anymore, because it gave her anxiety. And now everything was nearly ready. Just one last piece remained. Watching her lie to my face like I hadn't already erased myself from this life. She smiled again. You okay? You look weird. I smiled back. Everything's spotless, I said. She blinked. What? I walked past her. Calm. Quiet. Done. You'll figure it out, I muttered. Eventually, I left the front door open behind me. And just like that, I was gone. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I didn't even say goodbye. I just walked down the hallway, past the flickering elevator light, and out into the cold December night like I wasn't leaving behind 8 years, a mortgage, and a woman who once promised me forever. I heard her voice behind me as I walked, confused at first, then sharper, louder. Daryl, she called. Daryl, what's going on? She still had no clue. None. And honestly, that was the part that hit me hardest. Because I had spent months begging for scraps of attention. Sitting across from her at dinner while she scrolled through texts I wasn't allowed to ask about. Waiting in bed alone, listening to her come home late with half-baked excuses and a perfume that didn't belong to us. I stayed through all of it, through the gaslighting, the guilt trips, the cold silence. But the moment I stepped out the door, now she noticed something was wrong? I didn't answer. I just kept walking. The van was already loaded. I'd parked it on the other side of the block, so she wouldn't see it from the window. Half our apartment was in there. She hadn't noticed any of it. That's how little she saw me. She didn't even realize she'd been living with a ghost these past few weeks. By the time she ran outside, barefoot and in a panic, I was gone. Not far, just far enough to watch from the corner. She stood on the sidewalk, looking both ways, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't decide whether to yell or cry. She looked smaller than usual. Not powerful, not polished, not like the version of herself she saved for her boss and his sleek little dinner parties. Just lost. I waited until she went back inside. I could see the flicker of lights as she walked room to room. Maybe that's when it started to sink in. The missing clothes. The empty drawers. The blank spaces on the wall where our photos used to be. She didn't even have my number anymore. I'd changed it 2 days ago and left my old phone in the top drawer of my desk with a single message open on the screen. You lied better than you loved. She didn't call. She FaceTimed. But the call never came to me. It went to that old phone, vibrating silently on the desk as she stood over it, blinking at the screen. I imagined the look on her face when she saw that message. The pause. The cold realization that something was very, very wrong, and that it was too late to fix it with another pretty excuse. She tried to text me next. My new number was private. I watched the old phone light up with messages that only I would never read. I imagined her pacing, calling her sister, maybe even calling Trent, trying to figure out what to do now that her world wasn't revolving quietly around her anymore. No husband, no backup plan, no audience for her little performances. By 1 a.m. She sent her final message. Where are you? Please come back. I don't understand. That line broke me in a whole new way. Because she did understand. Deep down, she always did. She just never thought I'd actually leave. Never thought I had it in me. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just vanished. And now, she was stuck in the silence she gave me for months. She once said she loved how quiet I was. Now she'd get to live in that silence. Alone. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was heartbroken or angry. I'd already felt all of that, months ago. No. That night, I was wide awake because I wanted her to sit in it. The silence. The confusion. The guilt she'd buried so deep under spreadsheets and fake dinners, and the sound of her own voice saying, "You're overthinking again, Daryl." I imagined her sitting on the edge of our bed, the one I'd stripped bare except for the comforter, looking around at the ghost of a life she never thought would leave her. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel powerless. I felt calm. But Lena wasn't the kind of woman who stayed still when she lost control. By morning, I started getting the messages. Not on my phone. Again, that was dead to her. But through mutual friends. One of her coworkers messaged me on LinkedIn of all places. "Hey man, is everything okay? Lena's freaking out. She said you vanished." I didn't respond. Instead, I changed my profile photo to a plain black square and removed all my public info. Let her chase shadows. What really got to her, though, wasn't my disappearance. It was the envelope I left in the hallway cabinet. I taped it to the inside of the door, so she'd only find it if she was desperate, rummaging through things, trying to understand how her husband became vapor. Inside was a copy of a dinner receipt. From the Harbor Lounge. The one she claimed to have gone to with her boss. Dated 3 weeks ago. But there were 2 entrees, 2 drinks, and a bottle of wine. A very specific bottle of wine. She'd told me they were splitting the bill with the client. But this receipt? It had her signature at the bottom. Just hers. And the bottle of wine listed? It was the same bottle I bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. Back then, she said she didn't even like that wine. Too sweet, she told me. But I saw it on the receipt again, in black and white, next to the dessert platter for 2. She drank our memory with someone else. I knew this part would crush her more than the silence. Because Lena lived for control. For image. For structure. She thought she was 10 steps ahead of me. Thought I was too weak to walk. But I didn't just walk. I cleaned up after myself, too. She also didn't know about the locked room. The spare bedroom at the end of the hall, the one she used to store her files and work stuff, was locked when she got home. I changed the lock that afternoon and slid the key under the baseboard in the elevator shaft. Not to be cruel, just to make a point. That room held the rest of my things. And it held one other item, an old iPad synced to her cloud. Yeah, she forgot about that part. I didn't even have to hack anything. Just opened the Photos app a week ago, and there it was. Screenshots. Snaps she thought disappeared. A video, muted, grainy, but clear enough. Her in a dress I'd never seen. Him holding her waist like I used to. Her laughing the way she hadn't in years. So no, I wasn't just walking away from her. I was walking away from the gaslighting, the late nights, the scent of someone else's cologne in our sheets, the versions of me I kept killing off just to make her happy. And now, all she had left was the image of herself in a mirror that finally cracked. And I wasn't there to tape it back together this time. It took her 46 hours to finally show up at my brother's house. She didn't even know where I was staying. I'd told no one except Owen. And even he didn't know the full story. All he had was a suitcase waiting for me when I arrived, an air mattress in the guest room, and a quiet nod like, "You don't have to explain. Just rest." But Lena must have sniffed him out eventually. Maybe checked my calendar, or scrolled through old texts, or just guessed. She was always good at finding people, when it served her. But when she knocked on the door, I didn't open it. I watched from upstairs, out of sight, holding my breath as she stood on the porch in a long beige coat and sunglasses like she was walking into a courtroom. She rang the bell again, and Owen opened the door just a crack, enough to let her know she wasn't welcome. Her voice was calm. Too calm. "I just need to talk to him. Please. Just for a minute." But Owen had heard me sob through the wall 2 nights earlier, had seen me shake while reading old messages she sent to Trent that I wasn't supposed to find. He simply said, "He's not ready," and shut the door. She didn't knock again. Instead, she sat down on the front step like she was waiting for an Uber. Except it wasn't an Uber she wanted. It was access, control, a chance to rewrite the narrative before it slipped too far from her hands. Because that's what she always feared most. Not losing me, but losing the version of herself I saw. If I stopped believing the lie, then who was she? But this time, her control was gone. And she knew it. I got a message later that evening. Not a call, not a voicemail. A photo of our bedroom. Empty. The walls stripped. The drawers pulled out. My absence had finally become real to her. Not a threat. Not a test. Not some emotional outburst she could wait out. This time, she had to sit in the aftermath. And the panic was finally starting to seep in. Then came her second mistake. She sent me another picture. This time of him. Trent. Or rather, her and Trent, standing at some corporate event, shoulder to shoulder, his hand a little too low on her back. "This is all it was," she wrote underneath. "It wasn't what you think." She really thought that would fix it. That a caption could clean up a betrayal. That if she controlled the narrative just right, I'd crawl back and beg to be gaslit again. But she didn't know that I had already spoken to someone. 3 days before I left, I sent a message to a name I found buried in one of her team group chats. Celia R. Turned out, Celia was Trent's wife. And she didn't know anything about these dinners. Not one. She thought her husband was traveling for audits, conferences, team retreats. My message was simple. "I think our spouses have been spending a lot of nights together. You deserve to know that." No anger. No demands. Just truth. And Celia responded. Within minutes. "I knew something was off," she said. "I just didn't want it to be real." That night, she and I stayed on the phone for almost 2 hours. Strangers. Betrayed by the same people. Both trying to make sense of how long this had been going on and how deep the rot went. And as we talked, a plan quietly started to form. Not revenge. Something smarter. Lena still had no idea I'd contacted Celia. She still thought she was playing chess. Still thought I was her pawn, sulking somewhere, waiting for her to say the right combination of words to unlock my forgiveness. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I was done being quiet. Done being the backup plan while she played house with someone else. And now, the lies were unraveling on both ends. But I wasn't done yet. It wasn't the message that shook me, it was the timing. She sent it at 4:03 a.m., exactly 31 minutes after Celia told me she'd finally confronted Trent. Just a single sentence. "I don't know how this all got so twisted. No, I'm sorry. No explanation. No accountability. Just a vague, shapeless attempt at damage control. Like if she could soften the edges, I'd stop bleeding." I didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to, but because there was nothing left to say. Everything I needed to hear had already come out of Celia's mouth the night before. She told me that Trent hadn't just lied to her. He'd used my name. Said I was insecure. That I approved of the dinners. That Lena had checked in with her husband, and I was cool with it. I sat on the edge of Owen's guest bed with my phone pressed to my ear, hands shaking, heart sinking, as she read off texts that made me sound like the world's most clueless fool. I wasn't just cheated on. I was erased. Turned into a non-issue. A punchline. A faceless, spineless background character in whatever fantasy they were playing out under candlelight and wine glasses. But what Celia said next, that's when I realized I hadn't seen the worst of it yet. Apparently, there was an incident. Some HR complaint Lena never mentioned. Celia didn't have all the details, but there had been whispers that Trent was being transferred quietly, and that certain emails between him and Lena had been flagged. Celia only found out because someone in compliance owed her a favor. And just like that, the pieces started sliding into place. The sudden work trips. The frantic way Lena had wiped her laptop last month, claiming she was clearing space. The night she came home crying and said it was because the company was downsizing. No, it wasn't downsizing. It was damage control. Lena hadn't just betrayed me. She'd gambled everything. Our marriage, her career, her reputation, for a man who wouldn't even pick up the phone when she started to fall. And now that it was collapsing, she came crawling back. Except, she wasn't crawling to me. She was crawling to everyone else. Owen showed me screenshots from mutual friends, vague status updates, cryptic captions, taking time to heal selfies. Lena wasn't apologizing to me. She was rebuilding her image, playing the misunderstood victim. She even reactivated her old blog, the one she abandoned after we got married. Suddenly, it was full of quotes about growth through pain and the loneliness of being judged. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. She was still trying to control the narrative, even now, even after everything. But she didn't know that Celia had taken screenshots of the emails. She didn't know I'd forwarded them to a friend of mine who worked in the same industry. She didn't know the story was no longer hers to spin. She only knew one thing for sure. I was still silent. And this time, my silence wasn't weakness. It was the sound of a fuse burning down to something she'd never be able to fix. It all came undone faster than I expected. The tipping point wasn't something loud or public. It was an email. Just one. Celia sent it to the compliance director at their firm. Subject line: formal concern regarding workplace conduct. It was a short message, polite, almost clinical, but it included screenshots, timestamped texts, dinner confirmations, photos that weren't supposed to exist. One of them showed Lena and Trent sitting at a bar, too close, too casual, clearly outside of office hours. Celia didn't ask for revenge. She asked for clarity, for an internal audit. That's all it took. The fallout started as a trickle. First, Lena was put on leave. Then her company email was locked. Her LinkedIn suddenly said, open to opportunities. She didn't post about it. No vague quotes this time. Just silence. But I saw the panic in the shadows. A mutual friend messaged Owen asking if Lena was okay. Said she'd shown up to a friend's birthday party off, drinking too fast, leaving too early. Another friend said she was looking for a new apartment, which didn't make sense because she still had the condo. Unless, of course, she couldn't afford it anymore. I didn't smile. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt done. Numb maybe. Tired. Like I'd finally finished dragging myself through a swamp I never agreed to walk into. The saddest part? I would have forgiven her once. Not because I'm spineless, but because I loved her that much. Because I wanted to believe the woman I married was still in there somewhere. But that woman didn't exist anymore. She was replaced by someone who lied to my face, rewrote the truth, weaponized guilt, and smiled while I withered. And now, that same smile was gone. She texted me again, 3 days after the HR fallout. No apology, no details, just this. They twisted everything. I need to explain. Please. I didn't reply. Instead, I sent her a single email. One she couldn't twist. One she couldn't cry her way out of or rewrite on social media. It contained two things: a formal notice that I'd retained legal counsel regarding separation of shared property, and a Dropbox link labeled Evidence, Read Only. Inside were the receipts, the texts, the screenshots, the timeline. But I saved one file for last. A recording, not of her, of me, sitting in our empty living room the night I left, talking to no one, just hitting record on my phone and spilling the truth as I saw it. Every lonely night, every gaslight, every missed call, every moment I stayed when I shouldn't have. It was raw, shaky, full of emotion I'd buried for too long. And I ended it with, you don't get to rewrite this. I was here. I existed. I mattered. She viewed the Dropbox file 6 minutes after I sent it. No reply. No call. Just silence. This time, her silence told me everything. She wasn't in control anymore. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel invisible. She didn't knock this time. She just stood there. I saw her through the kitchen window, same beige coat, but this time it was wrinkled and soaked from the rain. She didn't hold a phone or a bag or even an umbrella. Just her. Alone. Soaked and shaking. It took her over a month to show up again, and now, after everything, she looked like she was finally ready to admit she'd lost. Owen wasn't home. He'd gone out for groceries, which left only me inside. And I had a choice. Open the door, or let the rain finish what the silence started. But something in me wanted to see her face. Not for closure. I wasn't waiting on some emotional apology. I just wanted to see what was left of the woman who said she'd never be the kind of person who cheated, who swore she'd never become her mother, who used to sob when her co-workers got divorced, saying, I'd never do that to someone I loved. I opened the door. She didn't speak right away. Just looked at me, blinking, dripping, breathing like she'd run a mile uphill. Her eyeliner had smeared, her lipstick was gone, and for once, there was no performance in her eyes. No spin. No speech ready. Just the raw panic of someone who realized too late that the mask doesn't work anymore. Daryl, she said, barely above a whisper. I lost everything. I stepped back, letting her in only far enough to keep the rain off the floor. I didn't invite her to sit. I didn't offer a towel. I just watched her stand there, small and shivering, and I waited. They let me go, she said. Not officially, but I'm blacklisted. Nobody's calling back. Trent transferred to Denver. He won't answer me. He told HR it was all me, that I initiated it. I raised my eyebrows, slowly, like I was just now hearing it for the first time. But I already knew. Celia had told me days ago. She kept going, voice cracking, hands trembling. My lease is up next month. I can't afford to renew. I tried moving back into the condo, but your lawyer blocked it. I didn't think you'd actually. She stopped, swallowing hard. I didn't think you'd really leave. That part stung. Because it was true. She never thought I would leave. She thought I'd always fold. Always forgive. Always wait. She thought I was the guy who would clean up the mess quietly and sleep beside her like nothing happened. She didn't understand that the man who left that night was not the same one she married. You didn't lose me, I finally said. You spent me. Like loose change. Her face fell, and for the first time, I saw it. Not guilt, not regret, but shame. That horrible, suffocating weight that doesn't go away with an apology. She tried to say something else, but I stopped her. I didn't leave because you cheated, I said. I left because you lied about it while staring me in the face. I left because you made me feel insane for noticing. Because you let me bleed out emotionally while telling everyone how brave you were. Her lip quivered. She looked away. I didn't mean. But you did. I cut in. You meant every lie, every omission. Every night you came home smelling like someone else and told me I was being paranoid. You meant to protect yourself. You just didn't expect to lose. She nodded slowly. Said nothing. For once, she had no script. I watched her walk back out into the rain. She didn't ask to come back. She didn't beg. She didn't yell. She just walked down the steps, into the streetlight glow, swallowed by the storm she created. And this time, I didn't feel empty. I felt free. It's strange how quiet can feel different when it's finally yours. The first few mornings after she left my doorstep, I kept expecting something. A knock, a call, a new trick up her sleeve. But it never came. No more messages. No more damage control. Just a long, stretching silence that didn't feel like punishment anymore. It felt earned. I stayed at Owen's for another week, but it was never meant to be permanent. I'd already signed the lease on a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but it had hardwood floors and a tiny balcony that caught the morning sun just right. And it was mine. No ghosts. No lies in the walls. Just a space I didn't have to share with someone who treated love like a business negotiation. I unpacked slowly. I was in no rush. Every box I opened was a reminder of what I kept and what I finally let go of. The wedding album? Donated. Her old anniversary letters? Shredded. But the things that mattered, the photo of my dad fishing with me as a kid, the record player I almost sold to afford her birthday gift that one year, the quilt my mom made for our first Christmas, those stayed. And they felt heavier now. More real. I went back to work. I started running again. I started eating like I cared about myself again. People say healing is a straight line, but it's not. It's jagged. It's messy. Some days I missed her like a phantom limb. But most days, I missed myself. The version of me that used to laugh without checking if it was okay first. And then, out of nowhere, it happened. I met someone. No, not like that. Not a rebound. Not a distraction. Just someone. Her name's Morgan. She works at the bookstore near my apartment. We talked about music once. Then again about coffee. Then about nothing at all. It wasn't fireworks. It was quiet. And I needed quiet. Not the kind I lived in with Lena, but the kind that feels like breathing room instead of suffocation. We haven't rushed it. She doesn't ask about my past unless I bring it up. She listens. Not with an agenda, with attention. And the first time I laughed around her, like really laughed, I realized how long it had been since I felt light. A few weeks ago, I walked past the building where Lena and I used to live. It was late. Warm out. I stood across the street and looked up at the balcony where we used to drink wine and pretend we were happy. The lights were off. The curtains had changed. A new couple must have moved in. Good. I don't know where she is now. I don't care. Maybe she rebuilt. Maybe she didn't. That part of the story doesn't belong to me anymore. And for the first time, I'm okay with that. Because I didn't just walk away from her. I walked back to myself. And this time, I'm not leaving.